Hi, my name is Dong and I'm an animator. Today, I want to take a look at the most common 2D animation software out there and see which one of those are the best to animate in. I work in the Japanese animation industry, so I needed something that works in that environment and that workflow. If you're a new artist looking for a software to start in, this is the video for you. If you are experienced and want to see what you are missing, this is also for you. For the longest time, I had been using a single piece of software for my work called TvPaint. While my software of choice works for me, I think being open-minded and seeing what else is out there is an important part of growth as an artist. Today, on our plate is the aforementioned TvPaint, OpenToonz, Krita, TvPaint, Toonboom Harmony, and Adobe Flash, or Animate as it is called now. I have obtained all these software myself without any influence from any third parties. We are going to animate this simple scene of a character sewing the peace sign out in all our software and see how well they work. We'll start with TvPaint. I'm actually on version 2 of TvPaint. I never purchased the update, so I might be missing some newer features. TvPaint is currently the most popular software in the Japanese animation industry, at least for layout and rough animation. I'll drag in my layout template into the workspace, and I'll provide this file in the description if you would like to use it as well. And this should create the file with the template as the base. If your animation timeline doesn't show up, you can find it under the Windows tab. To start animating, we can create a new timeline and create a new animation folder to draw in. We can create a new cell, and we can also put that cell layer into a folder. Now we can start drawing. I'll just rough out everything on this layer first. It might take a day to get used to it, but the TvPaint animation folder system feels very natural to use. To clean up our lines a bit, we can create a new layer to draw on in our folder and lower the rough layer's opacity. The TvPaint animation folder system is my favorite part of animating in this software. A single cell can be either a normal layer or a folder with multiple subfolders and layers. It is a very good system and it sets TvPaint away from the rest of the software on the list. It makes a lot of sense if you are coming in from an illustration background on Photoshop or something, for example. Drawing in TvPaint also feels very smooth and accurate. The drawing engine is fantastic. There is no noticeable lag and all the brushes all feel great to use. There is also a big community that makes free brushes that you can download into the software. I'm actually using a custom brush here. TvPaint also supports vector and raster brushes, although I am using the raster brush right now. Alright, with our editing pose done, let's create a new cell and draw the beginning pose. We can turn on the onion skin with the button above the timeline. It is simple, but it works. And same deal. Let's get our roughs down and then tighten up our drawing on a new layer. With that done, we can rearrange our cells quickly by just dragging them around. I want to create a breakdown drawing in the middle of our two poses. I want that hand to be in the halfway position. This should help the in-betweener when they drop my in-betweens. And the rest of the drawing can just be in-betweened like normal. Next, I want a drawing just before the editing pose where our character overshoots her action. This makes the movement feel much more lifelike. Let's also label everything once we are done and draw in our timing diagram. I talk about these in detail in other videos if you are interested. TvPaint has plenty of animation features despite it being a manga drawing program first. We can quickly rename cells in order, for example, and we can quickly retime them by dragging them around in our timeline. We can also insert temporary in-between track labels to mark where we want our in-betweens. To finish up our scene, let's paint in one of our drawings. We can draw red and blue color separation lines on one layer, and we can shade it in on another. And it's finished. I think it looks nice. TvPaint is a solid piece of software with a bunch of great features. Not shown in this video include CSP's 3D engine, where you can load a 3D mannequin and use it as reference, and various other features. It also draws well both in raster and vector. It does lack some more animation-specific features, as you will see in some of the other software, but it's still a great choice for a $237 USD one-time purchase software. Next, let's take a look at OpenToonz. It's a free open-source animation software. It's famous for being the software that Studio Ghibli did some compositing on, and I do see this software on a lot of compositors' computers over here in Japan. But today, we are just going to look at OpenToonz animation capabilities. Let's create a new scene. We'll give it a name, and let's set the width and height to match our layout template, which is A4 size at 200 dpi, giving us a resolution of 2338 pixels by 1653 pixels. We can drag our template into the first column of our timeline. We can then select it and drag it out to extend the scene. For column 2, let's create a new level and name it A. This is where we will draw. We can keep it a Toonz raster level, but you may also work with vector if you wish. OpenToonz has a wide variety of brushes you can find under the Style Editor. I am using a built-in one, but you can always install your own. Alright, let's get drawing. Let's rough out our ending pose and slowly build it up. To save time, I will just drop my clean line work over my roughs on the same layer. OpenToonz also kind of pushes you into making the whole drawing on a single layer, and I'll explain why later. I really like OpenToonz interface, especially with the vertical timeline. It makes anyone who has to fill in an animation exposure sheet feel at home. However, I do feel OpenToonz has one of the weaker drawing engines. It could just be my settings, but I feel the brushes have a slight delay and they don't always draw how I expect them to draw. Something like this I really expect to work straight out of the box, but I find this to be less of an issue with the default non-textured brushes. With that done, we can right-click on our timeline and create a blank drawing. We can then turn on the onion skin, with that ball thing on the left of our timeline. You can set it to show the onion skin for a specific drawing, or it can be relative to the current drawing. Then we can draw the starting pose. OpenToonz's feature set for drawing does feel a little sparse compared to TvPaint, which is also designed to make illustrations, but it does have enough functionality to make perfectly serviceable animation. Alright, let's get the rest of the drawings finished. We can then time our drawings by dragging them out in the timeline. We need to create palettes for each of our colors at the bottom. So one for red, blue, and green with our brush set. We can just draw the color separation line over our line drawing. Some brushes have the option to layer the brush strokes based on the palette order, so your black lines are always on top, for example. But this brush in particular does not have that feature. OpenToonz also has a great feature where the eraser tool can selectively erase the colors selected in the palette. So it isn't really a big issue if we were to do line work and coloring on the same layer. This is actually my favorite feature in any animation software. Alright, let's add the palette for our shading and let's finish the drawing. And yeah, it works. I think OpenToonz is a solid piece of software, but you need to get used to their drawing engine. It has a plethora of animation features that I haven't shown here, including 3D camera work, compositing, and special effects abilities, and also of plenty other useful features. I personally prefer OpenToonz for cleanup and cell painting, and since OpenToonz is an open source software, there are also branches of it that offer additional features that you might want to check out. And hey, it's free. Next, let's take a look at another free software, Krita. I personally don't know anyone who uses Krita in the industry here, but I still think it is worth a look as it is so feature-rich and popular. While Krita has an animation template, let's start from scratch and create a custom document. And like always, we'll have the resolution at 2338 by 1653. Then you want to go to Windows and select the animation workspace. Here we have our layers on the left and timeline at the bottom. I'll drag in our layout template, insert as a new layer, and reorder it under our paint layer. I'll rename that paint layer A as it will be our A cell. We can lock the layout template and hit the pin icon on the left of the timeline to unpin it, hiding that layer unless we select it. This is a fantastic feature to keep our timeline clear. We can then select our color from the palette menu, and at the top we can select our brush. Krita's brushes are fantastic out of the box, and you can always install custom ones. And like before, let's get drawing our ending pose. We'll start rough and slowly add details to it. Krita's drawing engine is great. Everything feels smooth and I feel like I have control over my lines. Krita is mainly a raster drawing software, and you really should be using the raster drawing features. With our drawing done, let's shift that drawing a frame over on the timeline, enable the onion skin by clicking the light bulb icon, and draw our starting pose. The onion skin can be adjusted using this interface on the right, and it is very easy to use. Just click and drag on the bars to adjust the opacity, and select which drawings before or after the selected drawing you want exposed on the onion skin. Alright, let's finish this up. With our line work done, to color our drawings, we need to create a layer underneath our line work. Match them up and use that as our painting layer. Using our brush, we can select our color from the palette and draw in our color separation lines and shade it in. Dragging around our frames, we can time it out. And we can also trim out our timeline in the interface here. Alright, we're done. Yeah, that looks solid, and I think Krita is a good software to use. Drawing in it feels great, but with Krita being an illustration software first, it does lack some quality of life animation features compared to the other software. It is still an excellent piece of software to get started with, don't get me wrong, and it is much easier to work with it than with OpenToonz, for example. It's also free, so you can't beat that. Next, let's take a look at TvPaint. It's a French software that is very popular in Europe, and there are also some animators in Japan that also like to use it. When I ask people why they like TvPaint, they often say they love drawing in it, and using its brushes feels like drawing on paper. Starting up the software, we can drag in our layout template and have the software create our scene from it as a base. In our timeline at the bottom, we can set the layout template to be held by clicking on the circle with a line icon. Then we can create a new layer to draw in. Selecting the stroke tool, we can see all the brushes. There are a bunch, but I'll be using the pencil brush for this. You can easily fine-tune your brushes in the menu on the left. TvPaint is a raster drawing software. Alright, let's get drawing. I do think TvPaint's drawing engine is great. It is very responsive and the brushes feel good. There are a lot of brushes here too, and you can get custom ones as well. However, this was also one of the hardest software for me to jump into, as none of the shortcuts carry over, and they have a very different system for navigating your canvas where you use Alt plus left click to pan and Alt plus right click to zoom in and out. I don't know, must be some French thing. We can also easily drag and move our drawings around, which TvPaint calls an instance. Again, must be some French thing. We can then enable the onion skin, or light table as it's called here, in our timeline. We can just draw something in the empty space in the timeline to create a new drawing. The onion skin can also be adjusted from the light table panel at the top. Alright, let's finish this. With our line work done, to color our drawings, we need to create a new layer in the timeline, match the timing to our line work layer, and use that to color. Let's add our color separation lines and hatch it out. And once that is done, to time our animation, we can drag that box on the bottom right to extend the exposure of our instances. TvPaint is a very simple software. It has all the animation features you need as well as a solid drawing engine. It feels like a lot more a premium version of Krita. TvPaint costs about $680 for a lifetime license. There is a also more expensive Pro version that has extra storyboarding features, 2D camera tools, and rigging capabilities for about $1,670. Next, let's take a look at Toonboom Harmony. I'm on version 22 here. Harmony is very popular in the West, mainly for asset-based puppet animation. However, recently, they have been trying to get a foothold into the Japanese animation industry and added some features for that, so let's check it out. Alright. Let's create a new scene. We'll set the camera size to 2338 by 1653 and create the scene. Under Workspace, you want to switch to the Japanese Animation Workspace in the Workspace tab in the toolbar. It's in Japanese for me for some reason, despite setting the language to English. We have our X-sheet timeline on the left and our brush settings on the right. Again, I really like vertical timelines. Let's go to File, Import, and get our layout template in the scene. Then we can select the A column and we can select our brush on the right. There is a large number of presets. I used the fine pencil one here, but they all look pretty good. Harmony is mainly a vector drawing software, but has support for raster drawing as well. Okay, let's draw. The drawing engine feels smooth and responsive. I don't have any complaints. Since Harmony is a mainly vector software, this lets us edit the lines later after it is drawn, which is extremely handy. This software is also very feature-rich for animation, and we are probably only using 10% of what the software has to offer today. We can then turn on the onion skin at the bottom right, and selecting an empty space in the X-sheet, we can create a new drawing. We can adjust the onion skin in the settings at the bottom right to make it easier to use. Once we are finished our line work, we can paint using the internal layers for each drawing. Each drawing has 4 internal layers: the overlay, line work, color, and underlay layers. And this system allows us to keep our timeline clean, kind of similar to Clip Studio Paint. We can draw the color separation lines in the color layer and shade it in the underlay layer, for example. Harmony also uses a palette system like OpenToonz, so we will need to create new colors once we start shading. Once we are done, we can drag around our drawings in the X-sheet to time them. There is also a feature for adding in-between markers as well as a sound and camera column you can draw in. These are all very nice features to have. Alright, let's check it out. Yeah, no complaints here. Harmony is a very solid piece of software. It is very clearly designed this for animation from the ground up, as it is very feature-rich, including camera capabilities, a 3D engine, and depending on the version, you also get the 2D rigging tools for puppet animation. Tboom Harmony is on a subscription model. Harmony Advanced is $71 a month, and it has all the features you need for professional work. Harmony Premium has additional 2D rigging features and better compositing capabilities, and it is about $130 per month. Lastly, let's take a look at Adobe Flash, or Adobe Animate as it is called now. I think I first used Flash back in middle school. It's not a particularly popular software nowadays, but there are studios that do use Flash, including Science Saru, and one of my favorite anime, Ping Pong, was animated in Flash. Alright, let's create a new scene. We'll set it to the size of 2638 by 1653 pixels. Once we are in the software, you are probably going to want to use the animation workspace if it didn't default to it. We can drag in our layout template into our canvas and extend the exposure of our layer by right-clicking on where we want it to end and selecting Insert Frame. Then we can create a new layer and start drawing on that. Flash is a vector software, and with the brush tool selected, you can adjust the settings on the right. Alright, let's get drawing. Flash's drawing engine is very responsive, but I still have the same issue I had back in middle school where it is almost impossible to get the base brush to look any good. Science Saru and other studios that do use Flash employ a plethora of third-party plugins to enhance the feature set of the software. I don't think any animator in Japan work in vanilla Flash, but the plugin stuff is a bit out of the scope of this video. One feature of Flash I do like is the ability to create graphic objects and nest drawings in them. By turning our line work into a graphic, we can go into the instance, and it has its own layers you can draw on. This way, we can color our drawing in the graphic object instance without having to create extra layers in the main timeline. Alright, I got the rest of the drawings done, and to space them, we can just drag the keys around in our timeline. And playing back our animation, yeah, it looks alright, but Flash is really missing a lot of the modern features out of the box compared to the other animation software. If you have it, you can still animate in it. Download some plugins to make the software better suited for a more professional workflow, and you can make some amazing stuff out of it. Just look at Studio Science Saru for example. The main advantage of Flash is that it is very customizable. Adobe Flash, or Animate as it is called now, is on a subscription model for $23 a month. And those are the software we looked at today. I know it's not all of them. You really can use any of these to create professional level work. I like Clip Studio Paint for having their animation folder system and a 3D engine that is great for references. I like OpenToonz for their wide range of animation features and that amazing selective eraser feature. Krita has a very good drawing engine with some very pretty brushes. TvPaint also has a very good drawing engine and has solid animation features. Harmony is just feature-packed. There are so many quality of life things in there. And Flash can also create very interesting drawings and unique styles with how customizable it is with third-party plugins. My point is, use any software you want. Trying to nitpick your software choice is like asking LeBron James what brand ball he plays with. The artist will always be more important than their choice of tools. Alright, that's it for today. Since it was my first time using some of this software, if I did miss anything, please let me know. Also comment if you'd like to see some of this software export more, or if you'd like me to try some other software. This channel is supported by my Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you guys. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to make these videos. If you'd like to support the channel, links are down below. Supporters get extra content every month, including extra videos and behind-the-scenes looks into my professional work. Other than that, check out my socials, and I'll see you next time.